Silent Hill F is a game that requires you to play through it at least 4 times, if not more, to get the entire story. And even then, in typical Silent Hill fashion, it doesn't exactly lay the story out on a platter for you. You still have to piece together what's actually going on through various files, documents, environmental staging, and more. This story also has the added complexity of being heavily tied to Japanese mythology, history, and culture. So this week, let's break down and explain it in simple to understand terms. What is really going on in Silent Hill F? Let's take a look. First things first, perhaps the most important thing to understand, and dare I say the part that really unlocks understanding the story at all, is the setting. And no, I don't mean Ebisugaoka. Silent Hill F is, at its heart, a story about 2 divine forces that are at war, and a girl with special blood that both sides are vying for. And you could say the stage for this particular battle is, well, inside Hinako. Her head, her heart, her soul. A particular otherworld that's rather unique to her. Ebisugaoka hasn't actually been taken over by fog and flowers. Hinako isn't magically waking up inside a massive shrine on the water somewhere. This all takes place inside her. These places do exist, but the game isn't actually taking place there. Just the versions of them that exist in Hinako's soul. So why are these 2 divine forces at war? Well, the Tsukumogami, generally seen in-game as Hinako's old doll, used to be the big wig around these parts. This particular kami-sama used to be known as Ukanomitama, a kami-sama associated with food and agriculture. They were also known as Inari, and this kami-sama used to have fox messengers. And Ukanomitama, or Inari, or whatever you wish to call this kami-sama, has been around in Ebisugaoka, or Higanokuni, as it used to be called, for quite some time. The people who lived in Higanokuni at the time worshipped something called the Water Dragon, believed to be one of the heads of the Yamata no Orochi, an 8-headed monster slain by Susanoo, who, by the way, also happens to be Ukanomitama's father. This water dragon kind of kept causing disasters with toxic gases and killing people, so the people worshipped it in fear, hoping that it would calm its tits if they were really nice to it. The majority of these people were members of the defeated Taira clan from the Genpei War, and they buried the sword of their now-deceased leader beneath a massive cedar tree in the village. This sword, full of powerful animosity, grew in power even underneath the tree, and so a sacred barrier had to be erected to also keep it in check. Then in the middle of the Kamakura period, so around the 1200s, a giant monk told the people that this same cedar tree in the village, the one that the sacred sword was buried under, should be the object of their worship instead of the water dragon. It was this tree, or rather, the divine spirit in it, that was sapping the water dragon of its power, and this spirit that would keep them safe. This spirit was Ukanomitama, or Inari, and the people quickly converted to this faith. Friendship ended with water dragon, now giant tree is my best friend. Higanokuni villages, probably. And so, for a while, all was well, and eventually, Higanokuni took on a new name, Ebisugaoka. The Inari faith here also developed new aspects not seen in other parts of Japan, due to Ebisugaoka's isolation. And because of this isolation, ideologies of the Tsukumogami faith also took hold, in which old objects were treated with respect and reverence, and especially old objects were considered to be sacred, much like their ancient cedar tree that protected them. But sometime during the Edo period, the sacred cedar tree was hit by lightning and destroyed. Now what would the people worship? Well, if the tree was the oldest thing in the village, then they would just have to worship the next oldest thing, as Tsukumogami faith would dictate. And that, the villagers believed, was an old Inari fox statue. They kinda forgot all about the powerful ancient sword that was buried beneath that tree they used to worship. Whoops. And with the cedar tree now destroyed, the water dragon appeared to wake from its slumber. Remember how I said that Ukanomitama, or Inari, used to use foxes as messengers? Well, a family of divine foxes travelled to Ebisugaoka from the west after hearing the rumblings of the water dragon, so they could put it down themselves. There, they found Ukanomitama weakened from the loss of their tree, and the people worshipping a fox statue. Why? It was almost like the village was being presented to them on a silver platter. It's important to note that these gods aren't like the Western idea of an all-knowing, all-powerful god. They're more akin to divine spirits, and their strength is bolstered by people putting their faith in them. And so, finding the people of Ebisugaoka worshipping a fox statue, well, they decided they would just have to step in and take over for Ukanomitama. They were actual foxes after all, and they encouraged the people to continue worshipping foxes, while they dealt with that pesky water dragon. And it was here that a divine war for the hearts of the Ebisugaoka villagers would begin. The foxes were successful in co-opting the unique Inari faith of Ebisugaoka, leaving Ukanomitama out in the cold, and they also came up with a way to subdue the water dragon. Just a little human sacrifice, you know? Every 8 years, a pure maiden with blessed blood in her veins would be sent to the dragon, and it was up to the Fox clan to personally find this girl each time. But as modernity crept up on even this little village in the middle of nowhere, the foxes found their divine powers waning. Suddenly, these sacrifices sent to the water dragon were no longer calming its tits. And so, they decided more drastic measures had to be taken. They would physically seal the dragon, and to do so, they trapped it with a great stone and built a shrine upon it, fully knowing that this wouldn't seal it forever, and when the dragon finally broke free again, it would likely spell the end of their clan. Either way, they called this location Heaven's Benediction, and the family in charge of all this? The Tsuneki clan. Weird how you can rearrange that name and end up with Kitsune, huh? Very weird. Total coincidence, I'm sure. At any rate, with the sacrifices no longer sating the dragon, the Fox clan, or the Tsunekis, decided that perhaps they would marry these women born with blessed blood instead. After all, through mixing divine and mortal blood, they could strengthen both their powers and keep that pesky dragon at bay. And so that's just what they did, with the head of the Tsuneki clan each time finding and marrying a woman with blessed blood, who would then pass that on to their children and keep that Tsuneki clan strong. All while Ukanomitama, now bereft of both a home and of worship, sat in the background and seethed, trying to figure out a way to claim their position back from the foxes for good. And that leads us to the events of Silent Hill F. Shimizu Hinako is one of these women born with blessed blood, and the Fox clan wants its soon-to-be head, Kotoyuki, to marry her. Doing so will secure their position for a while again, and keep the water dragon sealed beneath their shrine. And considering they've been pretty uncontested over the years in doing this, there's no reason to think it won't work again this time as well. But unfortunately, everything seems to align at once against them. For one, Hinako isn't like other girls. She's headstrong and rebellious, and she's constantly pissed that she's not allowed to play with both boys and girls. She hates what she can and can't do being decided merely by her gender, and, due to various family circumstances, she also grows up fearing and hating her father, a man she sees as abusive and brutish. And when her beloved sister Junko leaves to get married, leaving her alone with this horrid man, and in her mind, her weak mother, matters just get worse. She comes to hate the idea of marriage itself, and how women are expected to just give themselves up entirely for their husbands. She has her own dreams, her own goals, and she doesn't want to lose her freedom and identity by being tied down to a, in her eyes, probably abusive man, just like her own father. Now, that alone probably wouldn't stop the Foxes. They are known to simply spirit the women they want away, after all. But things get a little more complicated this time around, thanks to Hinako's childhood friend, Shu. You see, he comes from a long line of doctors, and they specialize in traditional remedies as well. In fact, Shu cooks up a little special something just for Hinako that he tells her can help her with all the headaches she keeps having. In reality, however, the medicine he gives her contains white Claudia. You know, that powerful herb used so lovingly by the Order over in Silent Hill, many years later for their religious ceremonies. This medicine, known as Kakura Makakura, allows one to not just converse with the gods, but also converse with their inner self. And Shu, having learnt that Hinako will soon be getting married to a practical stranger, wants her to consult with her inner self and see that her decision to actually go through with this marriage is stupid and not like her. After all, he himself is right there. And so, Hinako is left in a rather awkward and difficult position. Her father has agreed to marry her off to the Tsuneki family, as they are the most rich and powerful family around these parts. He genuinely thinks that there can be no happier life for his daughter than this. She gets to spend the rest of her life with all her needs taken care of. At the same time, the Tsuneki family will give him enough money to pay off his debts, and maybe even take care of his terribly ill wife. But is that what Hinako wants? Thanks to the effects of the Kakura Makakura, she's able to converse with her inner self, and it would seem she's indeed of two minds. Part of her wants things to stay exactly as they are. She stays in Ebisugaoka, she continues hanging out with her friends, and she doesn't have to go off and be some rich dude's wife. But another part of her does actually want to grow up and move on, even if she's terrified of the idea. Now, remember the other side effect of White Claudia that allows one to commune with the divine. That's where the Tsukumogami and Fox Clan step in. Obviously, the Tsunekis want Kotoyuki to marry Hinako, and mix her blessed blood with theirs in the form of a powerful child again. This will allow them to keep the water dragon in check, and keep them in power for the foreseeable future. But the Tsukumogami, after festering in their rage all this time, finally sees an opportunity to strike back. All thanks to Hinako's consumption of that powerful herb, giving them access to her mind. The Tsukumogami, now speaking to Hinako through her beloved childhood doll, tries to influence her against Kotoyuki, or as we know him, Fox Mask. If Hinako doesn't marry him, then the Fox Clan loses its stronghold over Ebisugaoka. But Fox Mask, being possessed by the ancient spirit of his ancestor Kyubi, the nine-tailed fox, obviously wants to get a ring on that finger ASAP. And so, the two divine forces fight for Hinako's heart in this unique landscape that you could argue is simply inside Hinako's head, or spirit. but it's probably easier to think of it as something similar to the other world in the original games. And yes, that goes for both Ebisugaoka and the Dark Shrine. Neither of these are the real world. The game only touches on the real world very briefly in some of the endings. That's why Hinako's friends are able to die numerous times, why they're able to return as bosses, and why Hinako sees herself and her friends as school students, when in reality, she's 20 and about to get married. That is the real world, and we don't ever see it, even when it's clear something is actually taking place there. Because Hinako is simply too lost in the source to see through it. And in the end, shockingly, Hinako chooses neither side. Both sides of her are able to reconcile. She learns the truth about her family and how they're not really bad guys. If we ignore that time her dad threw a knife at her, sure. She lays a bit of a smackdown on both the Tsukumogami and the fox, and then tells them both to eat dirt. Instead of doing what they want, she's going to spend some time deciding what she wants to do for herself. Or selves, I suppose, as both halves of her are still hanging around this rather unique and divine landscape while she figures things out. As for Kotoyuki, freed from his ancestors' possession, he too decides that he'll spend some time figuring things out and whether he actually has feelings for Hinako, or whether that was just his ancestor influencing him. Things end on a somewhat hopeful note for the two, but we're not forgetting something very important, right? Like that little matter of the water dragon, that's now free to release its toxic gases all over Ebisugaoka without the Fox clan keeping it down. Oh, whoops. Screw everyone that still lives down there, I guess. But if you're interested in learning what happened in Ebisugaoka after the events of the game, Konami released a Japanese-only event that did just that. And I have a video on it, so feel free to check that out next. As for Hinako's friends, best we know is that they're all alive at the end of the game. All three were going to attend Hinako's wedding, but other than that, their ultimate fates remain a mystery. They are alive and well, but probably super confused by the toxic geysers now exploding all over the village. Whoops. And that is the story of Silent Hill F in a nutshell. But what did you guys think of this one? Are there any other topics or characters from Silent Hill F that you'd like me to explore? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.